How's it going, guys? This is Clark Hellscream, and well, we got a new expansion coming out in just a couple of weeks. I believe the official release date is going to be August 4th for the Scholomance Academy, and well, I'm really excited about this meta because we got new keywords, we have dual class cards which we haven't seen since you know, Kazakus and Mean Streets of Gadstan and all of that. So let's just go ahead and jump right into these new cards because I think you guys are gonna like a lot of what the devs team has shown us today. So first things first, we kind of have one of the weaker cards that has been released today. The Cult Neophyte, 2 mana 3/2. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more. There's probably not a lot of ways that you can apply this into your decks, but you know, disruption is always nice, no matter how small it may be. So you know, maybe we'll see some decks that try to curve this out and you know, disrupt some spells, or maybe we might try to see this in terms of like denying AoEs for priests and whatnot. Like if you're scared of Soul Mirror, play this card and then suddenly Soul Mirror has to wait 1 more turn. Not saying it's going to be insane, but I think this card might have applications, and I just really like seeing disruption, so I really like the design of this card, but it's probably not all too powerful. But speaking of power level, we got one card that's going to be insane this next expansion, and this also ties into the new mechanic that is coming out with this expansion. 2 mana 2/3 Shaman card, Diligent Notetaker. Spell burst, return the spell to your hand. So the way that this mechanic works is when this minion is on the field, 1 time after you play a spell, it'll trigger the effect. So when you have this card on the field, you play the spell, and then it'll give you the effect, and then suddenly it's just a vanilla 2/3. It's already done its purpose. So in Shaman, there's a lot of applications that could actually use this card. Most commonly that people are really hoping may come back is the potential for Malygos Shaman. Haven't really seen that in a couple expansions, and it's been a while since it's been, you know, competitively viable at least. But there's another application where, you know, if you have Doomhammer and you give yourself another Rockbiter weapon, that could be pretty insane as well. So I think this card is going to be absolutely bonkers if Shaman is able to, you know, have a position in the meta. So I think this card can go a long way. And continuing on with the Spell Burst mechanic, we have 2 more cards that have been announced with it. The second one is a Paladin 3-drop, 4/2, Divine Shield, Spell Burst, gain Divine Shield. So this card's actually pretty good as well. Like, you don't really see a lot of high attack 3 mana cost cards that don't have some kind of low HP, but you know, with Divine Shield, you really don't have to worry about the HP of your minion. So with this, you know, you can play it on the field. Your opponent probably can't deal with it more times than not, depending on how their early game was. So you could get a trade, play, you know, like a Libram of Wisdom or something, give it a buff, and then suddenly it has Divine Shield again. So Paladin and Shaman are really gonna need some help this expansion. So these early cards are really gonna make a difference. These are low mana cards, I should say. So that way we can they can get on the board and just stick. Like, they need minions that can stick, and I think this card can definitely get there. So the last Spell Burst card that we have for today is a neutral card. 4 mana 2/5, Spell Burst, deal 2 damage to all other minions. This is also pretty interesting, but I don't want to say that this card is absolutely insane right off the bat. I mean, this is AoE for essentially all classes, and we have been seeing a lot of low mana cards being printed, so there's a possibility we might see some of this in decks that really need like more AoE options. But overall, I really don't know how much play this card is going to see, because AoE already comes in large supply as it is, and you already want to use your class cards for that. So I think this card is kind of lower in terms of power level compared to the other ones that we've seen so far, but it still has a potential of being in this being in the meta. So next up, we have these interesting dual class cards. The first one is a Shaman and Mage spell. That's a pretty interesting combination. 1 mana, shoot 3 missiles at random enemy minions that transform them into ones that cost 1 less. This card has a lot of different applications. So say your opponent only has 1 minion on the field, suddenly you shoot 3 missiles at it and it's going to devolve 3 levels. That could be pretty insane too, but there's the other application where you can play this against a wide board for your opponent, and I really don't know how much application that's going to have. I really see this as a 1 mana transformation effect, like against one really big card. So if your opponent plays like a 7-drop you don't want to deal with, suddenly you can just play this, and then that card becomes a 4-drop. That has a lot of applications, and depending on where Shaman and Mage can go, I think this can be in the deck. Now the next dual class card is one that I think is going to break the meta, and I'm already going to give it a 5 stars, and I'm not rating any other cards. I'm only going to rate this one because guess what? Innervate is back, boys and girls. Lightning Bloom, 0 mana, Druid, and Shaman card. Gain 2 mana crystals this turn only, and overload for 2 the next turn. The overload is completely irrelevant to some degree. There are going to be Druid decks in Wild that pretty much just use this for insane swings and insane combos. So that's what I kind of mean by it doesn't matter. But in Standard, the overload is actually very impactful. So like, unless this card is only used for like finishing the game, then the overload will make a difference. But sometimes, you know, if you're able to just cheat mana one turn, the next turn really isn't all too impactful. So I think that this card is going to see a lot of play because there are so many ways that Druid can already cheat mana, and now, you know, Shaman has more ways of cheating mana, which historically in the past, they've really only had access to cards like Ancestress Call and Eureka. So I think that Shaman is going to get a lot of help with this card, and Druid is going to be a powerhouse as well. So continuing on with 0 mana cards, we have a Paladin 0 mana card. Add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. First day of school, by the way. Welcome back to class, ladies and gentlemen. Well, here's how I'm already evaluating these 0 mana cards. They're already going to be busted because it automatically is giving more value to Kael'thas in the previous expansion. So I really feel like we might see some more potential for Kael'thas combos, but I don't think that this card is automatically going to make that a possibility. Like, the 0 mana card is definitely a huge impact, but there's really not a lot of ways that Paladin can cheat spells that's very, very beneficial to them. But in any case, in Wild, you have 0 mana cards now for Beardo Paladin, so it makes that combo a ton easier to fodder out. But I'm more so interested in how Standard is going to be able to use this card with Kael'thas, the Sunstrider. So I'm really interested on who's going to be able to figure that epic combo out. Because right now, I really can't think of any really big Paladin cards that you'd want to cheat at with the Kael'thas. So let's see what happens on day 1. Now we got our first legendary of this expansion. Shadow Wildclaw. It's a Druid and Hunter exclusive legendary. 3 mana 3/3. Give your beast +1/+1 in your deck, or transform into a friendly copy of a beast. Copy. Keep that in mind. So if you have a King Crush on the field and you're able to play this on top of that King Crush, suddenly this will have 8 attack. This card is extremely flexible. And I really, really like the fact that they're trying to give some more support to potential for Beast Druid. Like, in Wild, it's not really that good, and in Standard, it definitely doesn't have enough support, at least not right now. But I really like the direction of this card because it's not... It kind of reminds me of why Kelazeth was really insane, and, like, oh god, the 3 mana Prince that was able to copy cards that was kind of hard to make use of. But in the classes that this is in, I really feel like it's going to make a big difference because, you know, Hunter minions being buffed +1/+1, if they're all beasts, that could be insane. And depending on if people go for OTK combos, then this can also be very much the reason why those combos can, you know, work very well. So I think that this card is going to see a lot of play depending if it gets a lot of support as the expansion is released. Next up, we have I think our last dual class card. It is a Mage and Rogue minion, 1 mana 1/2 combo card. Very first time we're seeing a Mage combo card. Discover a Mage spell. So if you're thinking of Rogue getting like fireballs and frostbolts and that kind of stuff, you're very much right. Because I think that this card is going to see a ton more play in Rogue than we're going to see it in Mage. But I really think that it's going to see play in both classes. But like, I'm looking at Rogue. I'm seeing that we have spells that usually we don't have access to, including most of them being burn spells. So I think that this card is going to do insane amounts of things for Rogue, especially considering that Galakron is being nerfed. This will really help out, give Rogue a different identity, and maybe we'll see some aggro Rogue that has some burst options. And next up, we have our, I would say our very first power creep, I guess? Kind of power creep of the expansion. We got a Priest neutral card, I'm sorry, Priest vanilla card, 1 mana 1/4. And, you know, we haven't really seen a 1 mana 1/4 before. And the reason why it's really good in Priest is because they have cards like Apotheosis and whatnot. And it's kind of hard to evaluate because, you know, Galakron Priest is right now in the meta, and this kind of limits the pool a little bit in terms of what you're able to invoke and whatnot. So it's unless we see a lot of decks that are aimed, like a lot of priest decks that are aimed to try and take control of the early game and then never let go of the board, we may see this card have some play. But like, other than that, I'm having issues trying to find some reasons why else we would run this card. It's insane on turn 1, don't get me wrong. But with the way that Priest is already built, I'm not really sure if it's going to help steer it in the direction that it wants to go. I still think it's an insane card. I just don't know how much of a fit it'll be in Priest. If you slam Apotheosis this on turn 2, though, then it's absolutely insane and it can be game-winning. So, like, this card is on the cups of being insanely broken, in my opinion, and almost unplayable. So it really just depends on the direction that Priest decides to go in this expansion. Next up, we have a very interesting Druid spell. Discover a spell. Your next one costs 1 less. My very first thought when seeing this card was Miracle Druid. Miracle Druid is one of my favorite archetypes in the past because there's a lot of different combos that you can fodder out with it. And you know me, I like my combos. But, you know, in Standard, what if you just find this card over and over and over again? Nature Studies into Nature Studies into Nature Studies into Nature Studies? With Exotic Mount Seller, this can go a long way, and Spell Druid is already a powerhouse in the meta. So I think that this card is probably going to be included very commonly. We may even see this card be like the new 2 of in every single Druid deck because it's really insane. But like, this card just has a lot of applications to it. And, you know, it's ways that Spell Druid can find cards that aren't in the deck, like healing, for example. You can find more healing cards. If you're in a clutch situation and you need like a Savage Roar or you need some damage, there you go, you can find it. So this card is just essentially Primordial Glyph for Druid, and we all knew how good Primordial Glyph was back in the day. So I think that this card is going to be absolutely insane. Next up, we have Troublemaker, the 8-mana 6/8 warrior card. At the end of your turn, summon 2 3/3 ruffians that attack random enemies. So the stat line of this card is automatically making me think of Blood Brute, and the fact that you can get 2 3/3s that attack essentially for 6 very much reminds me of that. So this card is actually pretty decent because you can play it on turn 8 and it automatically gets it'll get value at the end of the turn, so it'll do something. It's just how impactful is 2 3/3 random attacks going to be? Probably not that good on average. And the way that Warrior is built right now, I'm really not sure if this can be fit in the current Enrage list because it's not very much a tempo card. This is like almost like a boss card to a degree, but the effect really doesn't help Enrage get there. So I think that this card has ways of being played. I just don't think that it's going to be, you know, terribly meta compared to what Warrior can do right now. And with the nerf to Corsair Cache, I don't think that Enrage Warrior is going anywhere unless the meta really does shake up. However, the next Warrior card is one that I am personally ecstatic for. Rattle Gor. Just take a look. Just take a look at this card. 9 mana, 9/9, Death Rattle. Resummon this with -1/-1. Go ahead and take it in, guys. Because guess what? I already know what y'all are thinking. You're thinking of N'Zoth. You're 100% thinking of N'Zoth about this card in Wild, even if you're not a Wild gamer. Because this is insane. This one card literally enables N'Zoth to insane capabilities. And just N'Zoth alone, just take out N'Zoth actually. Take out N'Zoth. This minion needs to be transformed or needs to be silenced. Otherwise, it is never, almost never leaving the board. Like, it's kind of hard to just throw this out on turn 9 and feel comfortable if you're behind. But like, if you're ahead, you're almost never losing the board with this card. So I think that this card is going to be absolutely bonkers, especially in Wild, because, you know, Control Warrior can maybe find a way to use this. And if you're able to fit N'Zoth the Corruptor, that's a pretty good meme. Or if you're able to reduce these cards, maybe you can do some pretty cool memes with Spirit Singer Umbra. So this card is just absolutely insane. And in Standard, you have to deal with it immediately, or you have to freeze it, or you have to do something with it. And if you just keep trading your minions into it, like, you need something that can deal 9 damage, then 8 damage, then 7 damage, and etc. So this card is absolutely insane. Last but not least, we have a very, very interesting card that's going to take a little bit of explanation. So it's a 2-mana 2/2 Transfer Student, neutral card. This has different effects based on which game board you're on. So I've already taken a look at Reddit, and there's a lot of different abilities that this card has. So obviously it depends on the board, and I really think it's going to limit how good this card can actually see play. But it still has some pretty interesting capabilities. So like, it can have Reborn on certain maps. It can give you a Lich King card. It can deal 2 damage. Like, the effects kind of vary in power level. It can deal 2 damage. You can give give a minion +1/+2. It has stealth and poisonous on some maps. So it really just depends on how good on average these abilities are. There's all, like, more so meta and standard. You can find lackeys with this card if you hit the Rise of Shadow map. If you're on the Descent of Dragons map, you get to discover a random dragon. So that by itself is already giving this card a lot of ways to be viable in standard. In wild, though, I have to say that this card is bad, because there's no way that you could fodder out the ability that you really want to get out of this card. So I feel like people are probably going to play this in Highlander decks because it has chances of being good. But the way that I see this card is Vulpera Scoundrel just seems better for what it wants to do and the decks that it wants to fit inside in. So I think that Transfer Student is an extremely flavorful card. It's exactly what Hearthstone is known for in terms of randomness, but I really don't think it's going to see that much play due to the fact that it's just got too many effects that just vary too vastly in what they can do and how they impact the game. And there you have it. Those are the 14 new cards from this new expansion. Hope you guys are interested in these new cards, because I am ecstatic. So let me know, like, what's your favorite card, guys? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have some conversations about it. I'm already having conversations on Twitter, especially about the Transfer Student. It has all the abilities there if you guys want to go check it out. So let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you for the next time when cards come out.